Hi, I'm Christina, and this is a book review of Girl A by Abigail Dean. So this is her debut novel and it was published in 2021. This is a thriller, but it doesn't read to me like a traditional thriller. It reads more like a contemporary novel with some thriller elements. So it is a very slow-paced book and it's definitely more character-driven than plot-driven. When we meet these characters, the majority of the plot has already happened and we see that through flashbacks. So when we meet all of these people, they are adults. So this family that we see has a mother and a father and 7 siblings, and the children have all had very traumatic childhoods and there is serious child abuse in all of their pasts. So the mother is currently in prison and she passes away and she makes Lex, our main character, and her eldest daughter the executor of her will. She had left them the family home, which has since been abandoned, and she's left them £20,000. So Lex needs to contact all of her siblings and they need to decide what to do with the home and what to do with the money. So there are 7 siblings in this family, and our main character Lex is known as Girl A because she is the eldest girl in the family, and then the eldest boy in the family is known as Boy A, and the second eldest girl is known as Girl B, and then etc. So we hear from 6 different perspectives, and we see from Lex, the main character, throughout the novel. We see her story from beginning to end, and I really liked that. I thought it was great to follow one particular character, and then each subsequent chapter we have another perspective, and it goes down in descending age order. So we see from Girl A first, and then we see from Boy A, and then we see from Girl B, etc. And I thought that was just a really great way of showing it. I liked that we followed one main character throughout the story because it really helped you connect to her as a character. And yeah, she was just such a wonderful character. She's been through so much and you're really, really rooting for her just throughout the story. And then to see all of the other siblings' perspective as well, it just works so well. And they all kind of have slightly different memories of certain things, and they've also all dealt with what they've been through in kind of very different ways. And they're all obviously very different people. They have different personalities. Some of them are doing quite well, all things considered, you know, professionally with careers, kind of like in relationships with friends, and some of them aren't doing so well. Some of them, what appears on the surface to be seen to be struggling a lot more than others. But obviously every single one is struggling, obviously, and facing their own battles. But it's very interesting to see how they are all doing kind of collectively, and then how it feels when they all kind of come together again, and how maybe they aren't always the best influence on one another, and how maybe it's not always very kind of healthy to have each other in their lives, considering what they've all been through. And I thought that was just some really interesting discussions. And yeah, I was so intrigued by this story, I think because I was following Lex for a very long time, and then once we got into the rhythm, I knew we were going to see from every single sibling's perspective. And yeah, I just felt it works so well. I was so intrigued, so invested, and I just wanted to know what had happened to them all kind of individually, and I was very interested to see where they're all at now and you know, what they're currently doing. So in terms of time, we see the story unfold in the present day, and then we also have lots of flashbacks in time, and the way in which that was done, it was flashing back to all different time periods at all different times. So you'll be reading a paragraph where Lex is in the present day, and then the next paragraph can jump you back to when they are very little, maybe like 4 or 5, and then we might have another present day, and then we might jump back to when she's about 12, and it's constantly shifting in time. And I have to say, those kind of things sometimes feel to me a little bit disjointed, and I find it kind of difficult to know where we are in time, which characters we're following and what's actually happening. But I have to say that worked really well in this. There was so many times where obviously we were following her in present day, and then she's thinking back and we're flashing back in time to another kind of period, and then maybe in the next paragraph we're flashing back to another kind of time period. And yeah, it didn't feel disjointed. It just worked really well. It just felt like we didn't quite know which part of her life we were going to see at any given time. And I think because she's obviously been through so much trauma and she's trying to piece things together, she isn't always thinking things in a linear fashion. She isn't thinking, oh, this happened and then this happened and then, you know, consequently this happened. She is kind of all over the place in where she's trying to draw things from. And a lot of times when she was talking to her psychiatrist, they are kind of going to different areas at different times and trying to piece together when certain things started to happen. And I think because the nature of her childhood as well, she didn't always know what time it was, what day it was, what month it was, the way that they'd been kept. And they just didn't necessarily know what, like, their place and their time. They didn't quite know what was going on. So yeah, I thought it worked really, really well. Yeah, it wasn't disjointed. It was just really kept me engaged. Never knew between one paragraph and the next what kind of time period we were going to witness. And yeah, I just thought it was a really great kind of device to write this story. It just really, really worked and I liked it. So I will say it did take me a little bit of time to get into it because it is more slow paced. But when I was about a quarter of the way in, I was absolutely invested and I just thought, yeah, this is a really, really good book. So I have given this one 5 stars. I thought it was absolutely excellent. Just really intrigued to know what was going to happen with these characters. And then obviously as we see the unfolding with every single character, I just really wanted to know what was happening with them. It was just really, really, really well written. Obviously there's lots of dark themes in this with the kind of subject of child abuse and all of those things that go along with it. It is a very dark story and it is very disturbing at times, but I don't feel like any of the violence was gratuitous. I know sometimes when we read these kind of books, some of the violence just doesn't feel necessary and I don't think it adds anything to the story. But in this one, I think it really, really worked. I think everything she tried to tell you was just to make you understand the character more and just to see their past, sees how it shapes them as adults and sees how it shapes the future. And yeah, I thought it worked really, really well. Now, there is one big twist that I did see coming. I think we were maybe about a chapter or 2 before the big reveal and I was sitting there going, I think I know exactly what's going to happen. I have a theory. And I was absolutely 100% right. So I do think it was a little bit obvious for me personally, but it didn't affect my enjoyment of the book at all. I still thought it was excellent. So sometimes when you're reading kind of a thriller type book, if you do predict the big twists, it is a little bit disappointing or it feels a little bit underwhelming because it hasn't surprised you, it hasn't shocked you. But in this one, no, I predicted it and when it happened I was like, that was done really, really well. And maybe it's just because I've read so many books that I could kind of see the setup and see it happening. But yeah, I thought it was a really interesting twist. I think it worked really, really well and it kind of puts a whole new perspective on the story, which I really enjoyed. So yeah, I would highly recommend this book. I thought it was just really, really good. I think it's probably one of the best kind of thrillers that I've read this year. It's definitely up there as like the top 2 best thrillers I've read. You know what, I think it's the top one. It was excellent. So as I said before, this is her debut novel and I think it's an absolutely wonderful debut, just really, really excellent. So I'm very excited to see what she publishes next. I will 100% be reading her second book and I had a little look to see if there's anything out about it yet and there is. It's going to be titled Day One and its expected publication is 2024. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what she writes next. I think this was a really strong book, a really strong first book. I think the way in which she developed her characters was excellent. You just couldn't help but root for Lex. She's such a strong person. She's been through so much and yet she's achieved so much in terms of her professional life. She's definitely a really high flyer. And yeah, she seems to have done so well, but obviously there's still so much there. So much trauma or like unresolved and things left to unpack. It's just kind of seeing her journey and I think it's kind of a survival journey for Lex. I mean for all of the characters, it's what I would call kind of a survival story and I don't think that's something always explored very often. In the kind of thriller books I've already read, we kind of sometimes we see the abuse happening and we see it unfolding, and that's kind of the main plot of the story, whereas that was all shown in flashbacks. So for this, the major plot of the story, I think you could say, has happened previously and we're flashing back to it, and then most of what we're seeing now is seeing how these characters have dealt with that and how they're trying to move their lives forward in all of their different ways. So yeah, just really, really great book. Yeah, like I said, 5-star read, highly recommend it. So if you have read this book, I would love to know your thoughts down in the comments below. And if you fancy reading it now, I'd love to know that too. So thank you so much for watching. Please do like the video if you've liked it. And please do subscribe if you'd like to hear more of me talking about books. I'll see you in my next one. Bye.